award-winning journalist Kara Swisher is one of is one of the most outspoken critics of the tech industry and the billionaire moguls who are cozying up to the White House right now. Please welcome author of the New York Times bestseller Burn Book, A Tech Love Story, the fabulous Kara Swisher. Yay! So, you've known Muskie for a while.
Okay.
That's what I call him.
Yeah.
Muskie.
Okay. Some people call him Melania.
Well, I can call him that.
Yeah.
No, see, I just want him to know that I'm aware of him.
Okay, good.
But you've known him a long time.
I have. About 30 years.
Yeah. So you've seen him go from a skeptical guy about the White House to essentially a co-president.
Correct.
What is happening there, and what's the evolution for you?
Well, a lot. I mean, a lot. I think he was sort of seen as someone who was very innovative, the stuff he was doing at SpaceX and Starlink and the cars. He was very early. He actually started off in payments, and before that,
Like a PayPal payment?
Well, before that, he put the Yellow Pages online. That was his company, Zip2. And so when he moved into cars and space, I got really intrigued because most tech bros, when they made their money, when they sold PayPal to eBay, did things like, digital dry cleaning, which is so uninteresting. And he did cars and space, and so it was exciting. And it was very inspirational, especially after the death of Steve Jobs. You needed to fill that space of inspiration. And even though, just like Jobs, very flawed, a lot of issues around a lot of behaviors that he had, he certainly didn't have disdain for the government, but he certainly was focused in on innovating, which was exciting.
So what happened?
A lot of things. During COVID, you first started to see it. He started to get very paranoid and deep state, that the deep state was after him. We had our first real set-to during that when we argued about how many people would die during the COVID. And I said, well, usually pandemics are 1 million people historically. And he goes, I've read all the studies, it's only going to be 1,000. And I was like, well, thank you, doctor, but you don't know what you're talking about. And this started to get very typical among tech people. They'd have one talent and then they'd move over into, suddenly they're an expert on Ukraine or whatever the heck.
That's kind of what I want to get at.
Greed, though. Do you think greed took a part of it? Because he's made all of his money recently from government contracts, like $38 billion.
That helped him. He certainly made it from government contracts and also innovation and riding on the back of government, as did all these people. We paid for the internet, folks. It wasn't these guys. They're riding on our rails. And so he made a lot of money with government contracts. Tesla was saved by an Obama loan. And so he certainly wasn't disdainful of government. He wanted to be part of it, for sure.
So what I'm curious about, because we all saw the scene on the White House lawn, sort of a Tesla commercial with Trump, and Trump encouraging people to buy them. Yeah, as Tesla stock is plummeting right now. And this is a man, as you mentioned, he is brilliant and a genius as a futurist in a certain part of... Potentially, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but in a certain space. Why do you think he wanted to get involved in something like government bureaucracy, which he doesn't necessarily have any background in?
Because all these guys, not just him, they're frequently wrong but never in doubt. And so what they have is when they're in their...
That's a T-shirt, y'all.
Yeah,
That's a T-shirt.
But I have a lot of them. When they're in their group, and they're also, when you become that rich, you have a lot of enablers around you, and you have a lot of people saying yes to you all the time, and they're in violent agreement with you. And then when someone pushes back, they become the enemy after a while. And they live in these worlds that are increasingly small and comfortable. And so they don't like feedback. They don't want to hear back. And then they become the expert on everything. And that's,
that explains Trump a little, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Although
very much.
a lot less than a lot of these guys.
Well, this Tesla stunt that took place a couple of days ago, it took place after a report of a White House tiff between Elon and Marco Rubio, where Trump apparently weighed in to defend Rubio and say that his cabinet secretaries are really in charge and not Musk. Now, he said different things at different times, but at least he said that at that moment. It seems to me that it was the first time that you saw any kind of friction between Elon and Trump. Do you think that was significant? I mean, will this bromance implode eventually, or are they like in it for the long haul?
Oh, I think he's still in charge. He still gets to decide the Department of Education, everything else. I think what Trump sees in Elon is money. He has, like, that was kind of an even trade. You show off my cars at the White House.
And I give you $100 million.
And I give you $100 million.
Right.
And so, you know, one of the things that spurred a lot of Elon's attraction to Trump was being, you know, stiff-armed by the Biden administration during an EV showcase at the White House, and he wasn't invited. He called me 10 times about it. I was like, get over it. It's because you don't have unions. And I would agree. I called the White House, Steve Ricchetti, in fact, and said, you really need to invite this guy in. He is the pioneer in this area. He's really angry. And they were like, oh, come on, Kara. And he's a big boy. And I was like, no, he's not. He's an adult toddler. So, no.
Kara, one question is, Elon isn't the only tech giant that who has seemed to do a 180 to be in lockstep with the president. The Broligarchy, as they've called, at the inauguration included CEOs of Meta, Google, Apple, among others. You start your book talking about the meeting they all had in, with President Trump after he won in 2016.
Right.
But does it feel different this time, and what's changed?
No, it's the same thing. They went there. They all had disdain for him, including Elon, by the way. But they felt like they needed to go for lots of reasons: taxes, bringing money back to the country, lack of regulation. They didn't want any regulation, and so they felt they had to. I called them sheeple. And what they did is they kind of snuck up there and then were embarrassed. Now they sort of see how easy, and Elon has shown them the way. This is a coin-operated president. And so if you give him money, you get something
I like
in
that
return.
too.
So, and this time Trump used them, which was really interesting, putting them on display like that. If you notice, Tim Cook and Sam Altman were in the back.
Way in the back.
Greatest feat of engineering in history, that they hid themselves. I'm sure Sundar Pichai, who is not like that, I think, although Google is, you know, under federal scrutiny.
All right, let's talk about what your next thing is, because I hear from a very interesting thing you're about to do. You used to work at the Washington Post.
Yes, I started there in the mailroom.
Okay. It's a wonder to become an agent at the William Morris office.
Me and Ari
And
Emanuel.
it's under scrutiny right now because of changes under Jeff Bezos, which is very disturbing. He's eliminating the whole opinion section unless you agree with him.
Right.
Okay. He also, remember, he wouldn't endorse Kamala Harris. Took that whole endorsement.
They didn't. They had the endorsement ready.
But they didn't do it.
Yep.
So he's like overhauling everything. A lot of people are canceling their subscriptions. I'm one of them, and I like that paper. Now, I understand that you are trying to buy the paper out from under him.
Yes. Yes.
Show me the money.
Right. Well, I can get the money. I know there are good billionaires, you know, and there are a lot of 100 millionaires. I know.
I never hear. Where are they? Why aren't they protesting?
They're doing stuff under. They're doing
I'd like
stuff
to hear them
in a
speak out a
different
little.
way.
Well, Mark Cuban does. I had dinner with him in
So
South
what do
by
you do?
Southwest.
Because
The money's not the issue.
what's the issue?
The money's not the issue. The issue is Jeff Bezos doesn't want to sell it because he sees it as a tool now. You know, Musk has X and he has this. Now, what's happening, though, is all the really good people are leaving. Ruth Marcus just left, a terrific columnist. The head of PR just left there. The head of communications just left yesterday. And they're just losing subscriptions, and it's all due to Jeff's things. He likes to blame the reporters. They don't like to change. And I would have agreed 10 years ago, but the reporters do understand that they need to change.
So maybe.
You want in, Whoopi?
I do. I do. And
down
maybe
for $1
the
million.
idea.
Like Trump.
But maybe the idea is to, what do you call it when you're self-funding? Crowdfunding. Because I think lots of people would love to be part of a newspaper that had something to say. That was, you know, told us a story. I've watched crowdfunding do amazing things, and maybe this is part of it, or maybe it's time for a new newspaper.
Well, that's what I'm thinking now. I have to say, because he doesn't want to sell. He doesn't want to sell to me. We had a lot of testy relations when I was covering him. But I think he doesn't want to sell. There's lots of reasons why not to, including embarrassment, right? Like that things aren't working out. And if he can use it, he can use it.